sensuous maidens offer themselves in ritual sacrifice to his brute embrace.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. He is sheer brute force. While Kong is a thinking animal. His brain is considerably larger. About 10 times the size of this gorilla's skull. Being instinctive rivals, there is no doubt that they will attempt to destroy one another.
King Kong versus Godzilla, heading for their colossal collision, shattering every obstacle that stands between them in the most fantastic rampage of annihilation ever recorded on film. See King Kong stamp Tokyo into the ground, holding a beautiful girl in his grasp. See Godzilla destroy an entire army. See King Kong trapped by the blazing barrier of 1 billion volts. But nothing, nobody can stop the great showdown when King Kong and Godzilla meet to fight for survival of the fittest.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to GeekFest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone, and joining me today I have Mike Sutton. Say hello, Michael.
Hi, guys and gals.
Well, today Mike is reporting on an event he recently went to, which a few years ago we did a show on, but a couple years ago it took place in Japan. This year it takes place in its normal location, which is in Chicago, and we are talking about G-Fest.
That is correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
a couple years ago, it wasn't that G-Fest was in Japan, that was G-Tour.
Oh, now did that year they had regular G-Fest?
Yes.
Or
Correct.
Oh, okay. I thought one takes the place of the other if
No.
it happens. This is a separate event, but related.
Two separate events, and they are related.
I see.
Correct.
Well, why don't you first give us a little background on what it is, that takes place every year, and what exactly do you guys celebrate?
Well, this was G-Fest number 21. It took place from July 11th to the 13th in Rosemont, Illinois. It was at the Crown Plaza Chicago O'Hare Hotel. That's the regular place that they hold the convention every year.
How long have you been going to these?
I've been going for a good 15, 16 years.
Wow, and it's always been Chicago.
It was in Chicago most of the time. There was 2 years. I don't remember which years, but it was in California.
Oh.
They went to California
This
and then
is before
came back.
you were involved?
Nope, I still went there. I went out to
okay.
California. I went to both conventions, and I heard years later that it was a little more, it was harder to deal with in California than in Chicago. A little more money. They had some problems. And then they also decided, from what I've understood, was to keep it back in Chicago where it would stay in one location instead of moving it around from cities to cities around the country. You know what? Let's just keep it in central U.S.
I mean, I'm sure it's easier for maybe most people or a lot of people because it's a central location, then you don't have to travel as much and that sort of thing. Well, let me ask you, even though this is G-Fest, meaning Godzilla is the main character of the purpose of the convention, tell us a little about some of the other different sci-fi characters that are kind of rolled into this too that, normally you wouldn't think that they have anything to do with Godzilla, but they do.
Yeah, it is a Godzilla convention, but we do talk a little bit about Gamera from Daiei Pictures and also Ultraman. But it's a Godzilla convention. He's the main focus. He's the most popular character that's drawn 2,000, 3,000 people every year. And actually, every year it goes up. I believe JD said this year was about 3,000 people came to 21. And we do think it's partially because of the new movie that came out. A lot of people came down. I know I did run into somebody who was their first time, and they said they came because of the movie. Wow. And they know when the movie was here, this was the year they wanted to come to G-Fest and see what was going on. And they had a lot of fun.
So speaking of the new movie, how much influence does the new movie have on the convention itself? In other words, how much presence do you think the convention got because of the new movie? I'm talking merchandising, I'm talking presentations, I'm talking displays, art, anything like that. How much do you think was of the new movie at the convention?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe about 10% would be from the new movie. I was on 3 panels. 2 were dedicated to the new movie. Was it Godzilla 2014, The Good, the Bad, the ... the future of the franchise?
So you were a panel member talking about your thoughts on how
Correct.
it was affected by it?
Correct. Between me and a couple other people, we just gave our opinions, like future of the franchise, what we think they were going to go going forward, what they would do, what we like to see them do. I actually would like some newer monsters. But then the funny thing is, after the convention, going on Facebook and at Comic-Con, they came out and mentioned that the new movie
that's what I wanted to ask you
would come out, and it was going to have Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Rodan.
Right, and this is something we talked about when we actually reviewed the new Godzilla film, when we were completely speculating on our own as to, all right, if they do a sequel, where should they go next? And, to me, it would seem to make sense that for the general audience, because, again, I don't think these films are made for the Godzilla die-hard fans. They're made for the general audience. To me, it kind of makes sense that you would have to bring in some more classic characters to make it different. Do you think it makes sense to do that? Again, not for the fans, but for the general audience? Or do you think the general audience don't care what they see as long as they see some big things fighting?
Yeah, I think it's for the general audience. You want to see some of the classic Toho characters and monsters, the famous ones. And, of course, they pick the most popular. Mothra has been in a lot of movies. King Ghidorah has been a lot, and even Rodan.
And there was an Easter egg I remember we talked about Mothra in the Godzilla movie.
Yes, there was that one Easter egg, and several people noticed it. You'd have to go back to the other podcast that we did, and you can look for it. But it has to do with the fish tank, and you will see something in the fish tank and words printed on the fish tank. So I gave you a hint.
The other good thing about the announcement that was made that Mike was talking about is that apparently the director, Edward Gareth, will be returning to the Godzilla franchise to do the sequel, I guess after he's done doing whichever Star Wars spinoff it is that he's just been hired to do. So it's a good thing that, in a way, this franchise has kind of catapulted him in terms of his directorial status. Granted, he has monsters behind him, but now it's not like I'm doing Star Wars, screw you, Godzilla. No, it's good, I think, that he comes back and continues with this franchise. But anyway, you mentioned that the actual Godzilla presence, the new Godzilla presence, wasn't that gigantic, but it's a good thing that it did bring in some new blood and new people into the mix.
Yeah, even bringing in new people, and we had, like you mentioned, the art contest. Mm-hmm. If you looked at several of the photos that were there was the new Godzilla movie was drawn out by some of the fans.
Oh, okay.
Even in the costume contest, there was a Muto. Somebody created a Muto costume, and they were in the contest. We saw that just, about 15, 20 minutes ago.
Yep.
So his presence was there, and I think it was warranted because he's part of the topic. And the funny thing is, being on the panel, we did have a few people that came up to us and actually thanked me for joining and talking about the new movie and giving my opinion and not sitting there and just saying, oh, it was the greatest movie ever made. I talked about some of the things I like to have seen differently, some of the flaws, and we talked a little bit that on the panel.
Well, what is the general consensus amongst the diehard original Godzilla fans as far as the new movie?
I think most people liked it. I didn't find many people that came in and said, I hated the movie. When we did one of the panels, the good, the bad, we didn't want to call it the ugly, but the good, the bad, the ... as we call it.
And the Ronald Emmerich.
Yeah, the Roland Emmerich. Yeah, we don't talk about that movie. Though there's a lot of people who still like that movie.
And I saw some figures in your videos and pictures that they're still displaying because it's a real movie. Unfortunately, you have to acknowledge it.
Right. We still have to acknowledge it. It's a Godzilla movie. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I think it's a piece of trash. It's a piece of garbage, but that's my opinion.
And we have a 2-hour podcast commentary all about that.
All about how bad it is and what's wrong with it. But to go back in the panel, we did actually, it wasn't me, it was John that was on the panel. He had brought up hands. He goes, who loved it, thought it was the greatest movie ever made? And there was a bunch of hands. And then there was who liked it, was like mediocre. And we actually said who hated it, and we had 1 or 2 hands that actually went up and said they hated the movie.
Oh, my goodness.
I did talk to one of my friends, Steve, and he says he hated it, but I never really got a chance to find out why he didn't like it, just being, involved with the convention, and he runs the art room. We just never got a chance to really sit and talk to each other. But there are some fans that don't like it, but the majority of the fans really like the movie.
Good.
Which is great, and that's obvious because it made over $500 million.
It did very well.
And that's why we have a sequel.
For its, for when it was released and, based on its competition, it did very well. And like you said, we're getting a sequel, so that's all good.
That's worldwide. So, it's made a lot of money and it'll keep going.
Now, you mentioned you were on 2 other panels during the convention. What were the other 2?
I sat in on a panel, Akira Fukube, 100 Years of Music. That just talked about, I represented the fan base. Mm-hmm. We had another gentleman, John. He's an actual film composer. He does That's his living. John Sherman. I can never pronounce his name. I'm sorry. But he was there. And then we also had Eric Hominick. He has a website, akirafukabe.org, and talks about the whole history of him, his biography and all. And it was just great to listen to both of them because they actually, one talked about the man and what drove his music and what was his influences. The other gentleman, John, talked about how the music's made and the different beats and the rhythms and things like that. And I just talked about, hey, I just love listening to the music.
You were like the fan perspective.
I was the fan perspective. And there was another gentleman with me, and I apologize, I forget his name right now. He sat in too. He was another fan. So we were the fan, they were the experts. And I had joked around at one time.
I see.
I said, I wanted to ask them a question. They said, what? Mike, what is it? And I went, could I just sit in the audience and sit and you guys talk? They said, because it was great. I didn't have a whole lot to get into.
Wow.
But that was a lot of fun because as a lot of people know, in the Godzilla movies, that Akira Fukabe, he's like 007 has his theme with James Bond. That theme, well, Godzilla has a lot of themes that's been used over and over, and he's very important. And he's also done so many other musical scores of Toho classics, of Rodan, War of the Gargantuas, and the list goes on. So that he's a big presence, and everybody loves his music.
And I think we even mentioned that even on this new film that came out, they try at certain beats. There are certain beats in the soundtrack where it looks like they're trying to pay homage to him a little bit. Certain hits here or there. I've definitely noticed that. I mean, it's not the theme. It's not the Godzilla theme, but every now and then you do hear these beats come up every now and then.
Yeah, I've listened to the soundtrack. I don't pick up on the beats, but several people have said that. But yeah, I was slightly disappointed. I thought at least play some of his music, put it on a radio, I don't know, TV commercial, something. I wanted a direct,
actual, unaltered version of it somewhere in there. Well, there's a sequel coming, so you never know. They might. Want to. I'm sure they're going to want to throw some Easter eggs too, like they did on the first one. Okay, so what was the last panel?
My last panel was a music match game. I did it last year. Also did it this year. Last year I took the first 4 movies. This year I took the next 4. And I played different tracks from the movie. And what you have to do is, and it's, of course, they're all in random order. You listen to the track. You have a sheet, and you have to put the track name and the movie and match it up on the sheet. And whoever got them all right, I gave out some prizes. And that was very successful, a lot of fun. And I do plan on doing it again next year.
I see. Now, I know for a fact also that aside from being so involved in these panels, you also supplied him with some videos.
Yes, I had the amateur video.
Tell us about what that is about.
I called it Kaiju Television or Kaiju TV. I did little parodies of commercials.
Now, did a couple of people do this or just you?
This was made with your help. You were in there and your family.
No, I know. I'm just saying, were there other video presentations or just you were the only person asked to do it?
Oh, no. It's open to anybody in the convention. If you want to create a video, you submit it and it gets judged. They probably had a good 10 different entries.
Wow.
And a lot of different things. And you'd be surprised today with computers and programs how easy it is to do editing and special effects and how many young kids and the teens that sat and put things together. Using toys and stop motion, special effects. It was really cool.
What was your theme?
Well, my theme was, like I said, TV commercials.
Okay.
I had Kaiju Bug Off. If we want to you have giant insect problems, and you had Off that would kill them and repel, and Bandai Clean.
So these are like comedy skits.
Mine were little comedy skits.
Right,
exactly.
right. Okay.
Just little parodies on just household products and things. So it was a lot of fun.
And you said this was a contest or just a presentation?
This was a contest, and I did win. I won a little trophy.
You're going to see this, obviously, at the cover of our episode title.
Yes, you will see it. Mine was for the category of I'd buy that for $1.
Okay.
So a little play on, because it's all things you can buy. So it's pretty fun. Now I do plan on putting it on YouTube or something. I just haven't done it yet. Because I know I do have some other people who would like to see it. And even though G-Fest was a couple weeks ago, with work, I haven't had time to sit down and put it up there, but it'll be up there soon.
Well, we'll include definitely a link to that when we have it ready, and we'll also put a link to a photo albums, of a lot of the pictures Mike took from the convention. Now, tell me something, because it's very different when you work a convention as opposed to when you're just a regular guest of a convention and you're allowed, you go everywhere and watch everything. Did you have enough time, on these couple of days to actually enjoy the actual convention? Were you able to go and go to the dealer's floor and the dealer room, and were you able to, look at some and participate, or even go to some of the panels that were non associated with whatever you were doing?
Yes and no. To be honest, this year, because I had the 4 panels, actually, this is the most panels I've done. Last year, I think I had 1 or 2. I'd never done 4. But again, JD, the organizer, put it out to all the presenters this year. Anybody interested? And I threw it out. Said, yeah, I got some ideas. I want to do my music match game. So I did that. I did miss a lot of things. No, the G-Fest is a family-oriented convention. It's packed with a lot of different things. This year, we had a lot of guests, and again, a lot of things to do. Like we had, returning was Koichi Kawakita. He's done many Godzilla movies. He had a presentation. We had the actress Tomoyoko Ai and Katsuhiko Sasaki. They were both in Terra Mechagodzilla. Mm-hmm. So they were there. We had Hiroshi Sagai. He's a model maker, sculptor. He was sitting with Stan and all the modeling aspects. We also had Don Fry, who was in Final Wars, another actor. He came down again. This is like his second, maybe third time back to G-Fest.
And you got a couple of autographs from these people,
yes.
I believe, right?
Yep. And then the last person we also had was Robert Scott Field, who's comes to the convention every year. He started as, he's M11 in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and he came down as the convention as a guest. And he's now down every year as an interpreter, and he helps out. So it's a lot of things to do. And
it's funny because anybody listening to this who's not very familiar with these characters, not only the actors, but also the actual monsters, I'm telling you, when this sequel comes out, you are going to be very familiar with them. All of a sudden, you'll be like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Here's where this character came from. It's like, these are classic monster characters that are going to be in a modern setting now that you guys are going to be able to kind of link together. And for those who are interested, you're going to be able to now to go back and look at these older films and see how these characters first started out. I'm sure they're going to look a little different, but you're going to get the origins of where these characters came from.
I'm sure that's a whole other topic. Yeah, we don't know what they're going to look like. We only know they're going to be in the new movies. But
we know that they're not just they are those characters. They gave us the name, so it's not like Mothra is going to be like a smog monster looking thing. No, Mothra is going to be a Mothra looking thing. So they have to honor the tradition, or at least where it comes from. And because they did a pretty good job with Godzilla in terms of, okay, they gave us the backstory, and more or less he looks 100 times better than the previous Godzilla film.
That TriStar piece of crap movie?
Yes. Yeah, we're back to that again.
Let's get that back to that. Let's get back to G-Fest for a second.
I know. Well, okay, tell me about the dealer's room. Did you buy anything?
I did buy a few things. I didn't go too crazy this year.
First of all, because you have to fly there, so you really can't transport things back and forth. It's kind of difficult to...
Correct. I did take a bigger suitcase this year because I knew I was flying. My one big purchase was I picked up a Varon figure by X Plus that I wanted to get that helps fill in my collection. Mm-hmm. And I picked up some trading cards.
Any art prints? Did you collect any posters or anything like that? Or
I didn't get any posters this year. No prints. But, I mean, talking about art, there's a whole section in G-Fest, the whole art section. There's just dozens of people, and every year that grows bigger and bigger. And right now, Matt Frank, who's working on Godzilla comics for IDW, he was there. He also got in another gentleman, Zarno. I can't remember his last name. I'm sorry. Drawing a blank.
But are these art displays, or is this part of the art contest?
No, these are professionals that are working on the comic books.
But they're showing some of their material for everybody to see?
They're showing, yep.
Like an art gallery type of...
Art gallery. They'll do sketches for you. You pay for the sketches. You can buy prints. They did have a panel on the comic books and the series going forward. So if you were into that, that's something you could look at. And, all these guys are approachable because they're old Godzilla fans. Especially Matt Frank. Talk to him. He loves Godzilla. He's a fan. This was his dream job that he finally got to draw a Godzilla comic book.
What about DVDs? Do they sell a lot of movies while you're there?
Yes, there's a lot of DVDs. Rule number 1 is there's no bootlegs. So you can only buy the Blu-rays, the DVDs that are officially released. And then, of course, the video dealers always have something else besides Godzilla. You can get all the camera movies.
Right. Now, does anime leak into this too a little bit? Or
it leaks in a little bit, but not that much.
Okay.
But it's there. But it's mostly, the dealer's room is any Godzilla toy, imaginable.
Apparel. I was
T-shirts.
going to say apparel, all types of apparel.
Everything. Toys galore. T-shirts, books, magazines, model kits.
Now, are most of these toys imported from Japan, or are there some American licenses that actually produce stuff here?
Yeah, most of it is from Japan, but there are some licenses. With the success of the movie and the popularity, Diamond Distributor's been trying to bring in more toys and things that are licensed by Toho. I know they had the bank. You have a Godzilla bank that Diamond had put out. There was a bottle opener. I don't think anybody had the bottle opener.
Well, you also mentioned earlier today when we were talking that you were able to get an ornament. Tell us about that.
Yes, Tom Tavares, he does the sculpting for Carlton cards. He puts out the ornaments every year.
And this is different from Hallmark cards. The
correct.
Hallmark because, as a matter of fact, Hallmark has their own Godzilla based on the movie ornament this year, which I actually saw, but you picked up the different companies' more traditional looking Godzilla, right?
Yeah. He created an ornament for the 60th anniversary. Again, it's by Carlton Cards, and it lights up and it roars, and I think it played music. I'll be honest, I played it when I first picked it up, and I haven't done it since. I can't wait for Christmas so I can put them out on the tree, and also to try and get another one just to keep. But he was there. He also designed all the King Kong ornaments by Carlton Cards. Okay. So I didn't realize that until talking to him at the convention, and he's a big, monster fan and Godzilla fan, and he had King Kong out there, and he had, the samples. And I asked him, he said, "Did you do those?" He goes, "Yeah, I did all the Godzilla ones." And he's done Dracula and Frankenstein. He said he's got a lot in the works, and he's sitting there just waiting for Carlton to give him the okay and put some more ornaments out.
Well, it's funny you mentioned King Kong because, like you said before, King Kong kind of also leaks into this convention because of the King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus King Kong film.
Yes, and King Kong Escapes.
Which is a weird mashup. I don't understand, legally, how were they able to combine those two monsters? Is King Kong public domain or something? Or
no, King Kong's not public domain.
How were they able to?
Back in the 60s, Godzilla was the huge success in Japan, and King Kong was a huge success.
For, what is it, Universal or Warner's? Or I don't even remember who owned the rights to King Kong.
Universal,
okay. Well, King Kong used to be in the Universal studio tour, so it must have been a Universal.
It's Universal.
So they teamed up? Is that what happened?
And yeah, they teamed up because you had the two biggest monsters on the screen, got together, and we had King Kong versus Godzilla.
So that's how that union was formed.
And that's how it was formed.
But I did notice, like you said, like I was telling you, that in some of the pictures you were showing me, some of the art that people were doing, some of them was King Kong specific, not King Kong versus Godzilla, but people's artistic interpretation of King Kong, period, especially the original black and white King Kong. And this also brings us to, when we were talking about Legendary, is that not only is a Godzilla sequel announced, but now they have announced a King Kong prequel called Skull Island. So do you think down the line, since this is all Legendary, it's the same company now, do you think there might be some crossover in the future, maybe into a third Godzilla film?
We do hope so. That's the speculation.
It seems a little too much of a coincidence.
They've got the rights to both characters.
Maybe, think about this. Godzilla versus King Kong versus Pacific Rim. A three-way monster fight.
I don't know if we want to do that, but I think as a fan, we'd love to watch the King Kong versus Godzilla remake.
They haven't had a three-way monster fight for three different franchises. It's always two franchises that end up fighting each other, not three. Yeah. But yeah, that's something you could, that you never know. They might go in that direction.
That could be the third Godzilla movie. You never know. You throw in King Kong.
Now
everything comes in threes.
No kidding. Three sequels, and there's got to be three of them. It's got to be a trilogy.
Now you had mentioned other fans depicting King Kong. You said that was in the model room. There's a lot of models that people will paint.
Part of a contest, right?
Yeah, it's the modeling contest. You can actually enter your model and not be in the contest. But you can just put things on display.
Just a display, I got it.
And somebody did do a King Kong model, and he was fighting a T-Rex.
Yes.
And he painted it in grayscale. Yeah, in black and white, which was really cool as a throwback. So, and again, that's another thing, that's another big part of G-Fest is the modeling thread. Stan Hyde does a great job. He's got panels going on and how to paint and how to put together. They do dioramas. They do everything, and then people bring their models down and put them on display for everybody to look at. And I believe they even had you can vote on fan favorite, and they do give out prizes.
And I also saw the pictures had art, like actual drawings, paintings, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And
you get a lot of fans, young and old, will paint and draw with pencil. You name it. There's somebody who does
all
some
types
plush.
of graphic arts, that sort of
some
thing.
plush type
Yeah.
plush figures. They do them all by hand, all hand sewing. You get a lot of things. Even Ray Harryhausen's portrait
I
showed
saw that.
up.
Yeah, it's like, wow. How
It was
is he
like,
and you're like, okay,
hey,
I
that's
get it.
Ray
It's
Harryhausen.
Stop motion and
It helps.
well,
But
he did Mighty Joe Young. I guess that's there's a connection there. And the other contest you were showing us was the costume contest that they have they have this every year.
yeah, that's a big part of the show. Saturday nights, you have the contest. This year, I think there was like 45 entries. Almost 50. I don't remember the exact number. That's run by Paul Gavins. Another one does a great job. It's another highlight of the convention everybody enjoys. Fellow fans dressing up and making costumes.
Mm-hmm.
And Carlos, you saw some of them are made by little kids, 8, 10, 12-year-old. And then there's the adult versions that when you look at them, you go, oh my God.
Yeah. And obviously they, in the order that they presenting them, they bring those last because this is like professional stuff that you're looking at it and you're like.
It's semi-professional.
You got to be really into this to be able to make, it's the type of stuff that if they were making Godzilla films today, you would imagine these costumes would be in the movie.
Yes.
They're so detailed.
You can do these are fan-made in fan films by Dojo Studios.
I would say it's the equivalent in Star Wars of the droids builders clubs when the people that remake the R2D2 units that look exactly like it. Well, that's what these guys are making in human size costumes. They're unbelievable. The padding and the detail, and scales and colors. It's like I said before, it's movie quality. Material that you're dealing with. It's not the type of thing you average person can do on their own at home. But there was a lot of that. There is a lot of homemade stuff there too.
Yep. Again, that's a lot of the costumes are all homemade and it's all done by fans. And just to let you know, with the more professional suits that are put together, they do have filming that goes on at G-Fest. They'll do crowd scenes. They'll put out a call if anybody wants to be in a crowd scene and do running in the hotel lobby or in parking lots. And they do put the costumes on and they build their own sets with buildings and backdrops.
Do they set it on fire?
And no, nothing gets set on fire. That's all done on the computer afterwards.
You take all the fun out of it.
You can't burn anything
in the hotel.
But it's still the point. Again, it's Dojo Studios. They put together little fan films and it's amazing what they do. They are locked in the room for the entire convention, which runs 3 days, and they're in there the whole weekend. Filming, and you can sit and watch the filming. It's just so much stuff. And then if you don't want to do that, you can go in the basement and you can play video games. They have video game tournaments. They pull out the old Xbox, the Godzilla Unleashed games. Mike McCants takes care of that. He runs the whole thing, and you can sit there, play games, or you go into the competition.
Well, I could imagine you could also watch movies. They must be playing a lot of movies, too.
There's movies. The big threads that is getting bigger each year is the fan movies. And this year, they actually brought in a couple of fan-made films that I didn't get to see because, unfortunately, I was on my panels. But they came in. It was Gamera 4, which was done by a fan in Japan. They actually brought the director and the guy who did it. He came down to talk about it. There was another fan film, and so that's. Folks, I'd have to look it up right now because I can't remember the names of the movies.
Well, let me also...
that's another section that's gotten much bigger.
Uh-huh.
There's also, sorry to cut you off, but we also have a viewing room where it's nothing but kaiju-related movies, Ultraman TV shows.
Okay.
So if you're in between panels, you spend all your money in the dealer's room, you can go in and sit down and watch pieces of movies and episodes. Well, another neat thing is, in the hotel... in the in-house channel runs 24 hours a day. You have all different TV commercials and movies. You may have Gamera movies being shown.
Just for the convention?
Just for the convention.
Wow.
It runs, like I said, all 3 days. So when you come back from the movies, which, by the way, Thursday, before the convention starts, there's always 4 movies shown. There's 2 in the afternoon and 2 at night. So after you watch those movies, when you get back to the hotel... and the convention starts, we all come back after the convention, like a Friday night at 10 o'clock. They throw another Godzilla movie on, And when you come back at 1 in the morning, you can turn on the channel and you can watch more stuff. And it's a lot of fun. You have a lot of things to see.
Well, when we started this conversation, we were also talking about the trip you took to Japan that we covered a number of episodes ago. Why don't you tell us about what is the status of a future Japan trip?
Yes, G-Tour 3 is confirmed. It will be next year, sometime in August. That's all we know. JD did confirm. You will be going back. Right now, the plan is I will be attending G-Tour 3, also G-Fest 22. I will be there for both. But yes, we will be going back to Japan. Right now, we don't know where we're going to go, what's going to be done. That's all being organized by JD Lee's. It'll be out in the magazine, and once I get the dates, and so I have the dates, I will be putting my vacation request in so I can get to go there.
And Mike will tell us all about the trip when he comes back, like he did last time.
And I will take a lot of pictures, because I will take thousands of pictures.
Now, let me just ask you to please tell us a little story about, as we wind up here, the trophy that you received and your adventures with the airport that you had trying to bring this trophy back to New York.
Yes, funny story. Not thinking, I took my little gold trophy, which is smaller than a brick. I'd say about 3/4 the size of a normal brick.
Right. Think about the word brick when you're dealing with the TSA and, the airports and contraband.
Now, I made the mistake by not putting it in my checked luggage. I put it in my knapsack with my camera. And I put it in, took my shoes off, to the whole thing, put it through. My bag got pulled to the side. And
what do we got here?
I'm like, what's in my bag that they're looking at? I went, oh, no.
It's my brick of hash.
It's my brick. It got passed around to about 3 or 4 TSA people. They pulled the bag, opened it, pulled it out, looked at it.
What the hell is this?
It got passed, and I think it actually got passed to a supervisor.
Wow.
Because the guy walks over to somebody else, and they're looking at it and fumbling it.
They're sniffing it. They're tasting it.
And then the guy came back, and they're laughing, and they're going, what's this? And I went,
how dare
read
you?
It says my G-Fest fan movie award. I'm trying to remember the exact words. I just printed on it. And the guy looks at me, a what?
What the hell is wrong with you?
It's my fan award. And I explained to them that I did a little amateur video, and it was my award. And he started laughing.
Cavity search ensued.
And he took it over with my bag. And there was another handler, the TSA agent. The woman goes, it's a what? And I said, it's a movie. It's an award.
I swear.
So anybody, if you do win one, don't put it in your checked bags. And that's not the first time my bag has got stopped. A couple of years ago, I picked up a Kiryu, a Mecha Godzilla, and not thinking, I threw him in my knapsack. And of course, everybody knows his spines are all sharp ridges.
Oh, jeez.
And it was the same thing. Whose bag is this? And I went, that's mine.
That's me.
It's a toy.
It's the Godzilla guy again.
And I went, it's a toy. It's Mecha Godzilla's ridges. And the guy was like, what? Like, looking at me. I'm like, it's a toy.
They're Chinese throwing stars.
And he opened it. It was the same thing. He pulls it out. He's looking at it. He looks at me. Yeah, he just threw back in the bag. Go ahead.
It's one of those.
I told you it's a toy. So I did it twice. So it is kind of funny.
Well, I'm sure the best story is going to come next year when he returns from Japan and really gets into customs trouble with something having to do with TSA.
As long as it's not food. I can't bring food into a country.
Well,
can I? Can I bring the Tokyo bananas? I did bring Tokyo bananas. I can bring those in.
Who knows? But
I think we can, because I had Tokyo bananas a couple years ago.
Well, like I said earlier, we'll definitely show you guys a picture, in our art section, in our cover art of what this potential threatening award looks like.
Yeah, and but going back to G-Fest, I talked about a lot of things, but I've left a lot of things out. There is Minya's room, a little room dedicated for children's activities for the kids, because again, it's a family-run and family-oriented convention, so that's something there. We also have G-Fans Helping G-Fans, which is a lot of charity. You can win toys, DVDs, special collectibles. That's out there. You could actually get a 2-night free stay from the hotel. And the
Lucky
joke
winner.
was, I won that twice, 2 years in a row. And David, who runs it, David Nunez, this year he told me, he goes, you still can't enter this. And I went, why? Because I won 2 years in a row? He goes, yeah. I did not win again, but I did win it twice. So you can get 2 free nights.
Wow.
You could also get, they call it split the pot or a 50-50 raffle. You get half the money goes to charity, the other half goes to you. And that's a pretty big one. A lot of people try to win the money, and I think this year's pot was somewhere around 200, a little over $200. So it's not that
that's not bad.
It's not like $40 you're winning. You're winning a couple of hundred. Again, charity. I don't remember how much they raised this year. I don't remember, but it's a couple thousand that goes to G fans, helping G fans. And what else? There's of course the autographs. The one nice thing about the stars that do come down, they're so happy to see you. They'll sign your autographs and take pictures. So that's a lot of fun. We have all the contests, the film festival. Oh, and the big thing that we didn't really talk about, because we were talking about the convention, was the big concert that was put on. We didn't get a chance to talk about that beforehand, but 2 Godzilla fans loved Akira Ifukube's music. It's his 100th birthday.
Oof.
Was this year. 2 fans sat and organized a concert, and we got to hear an actual orchestra play Godzilla music live.
It was nearby or at the hotel?
This was in the Pickwick Theater.
Okay.
Pickwick Theater is where we hold all the movies. I shouldn't say we, but the convention holds all the movies on Thursday and Friday night and Saturday night. They made arrangements to squeeze it into the schedule this year. And they brought in, I don't know how many pieces was it, like a 20, 30. It was a full-size orchestra.
Like an actual orchestra. Wow.
It's an actual orchestra. And it was a Kickstarter-funded event.
Wow.
I donated because I wanted to see that. And they made enough money, and they were able to do it. It sounded great.
Were they playing movies also at the same time, or just the orchestra?
No, just the music. I don't know all the details, but they just were able to play the music.
How long was the event? Like a couple hours?
Yeah, about 90 minutes.
Wow.
You had 2 suites. You started with Godzilla. It was only, again, Akira Ifukube's music.
Is this available somewhere for people to listen?
No, it's not officially available.
Okay.
You cannot buy it. If you're a backer of the Kickstarter project, you will get a CD if you invested enough money for it. But hint, hint, it is on the internet.
On the interwebs.
On interwebs and some kind of tube.
Some kind of tubular noodle type of
right.
Like a
But yes,
CD.
you can find it. I joke around, and we all say once in a lifetime, because it was the 100th anniversary. We got to hear the music. We'll see what happens in the future.
Cool.
But it was unbelievable to hear the music live.
Yeah, we've had
sitting, like when we did the Star Wars experience.
And when we did the Lord of the Rings.
And Lord of the Rings.
It's a complete other world. It's so weird hearing it organically there in front of you.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, too, when, not get off the subject too much, but a lot of the Godzilla soundtracks that we have, they're only recorded in mono.
Well, yeah.
So that's mono, which sounds great. But to hear it, again, like you said, live. And the nice thing about the Pickwick Theater...
And it's not a high school band. It's a real orchestra.
This was a real orchestra. I don't remember what college they went to, but they actually got professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought them in. They did. There was 2 or 3 days of practice and going over all the music. So for Saturday night...
This was a one-night event or 2?
One-night event.
One-night event. Wow.
Again, I don't remember how many hundreds of people showed. I'm just throwing in a rough number. I heard it was over 400 people.
Wow.
Came down. And again, it was just great. You heard all of his music. And again, Chris Olio and John both did such a great job. And I keep saying great, and then I correct myself. It's just stupendous. It's an unbelievable thing that they did. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and see something down the road. But the whole point is, G-fans, run this convention. And it's the dedication of, those 2 gentlemen that put this together and what keeps this convention going. And that's why I go back every year, and been 14 years, and they've made a lot of friends. And there's one thing that when you go there, you always have something to talk about. It's not like you can walk in and meet somebody and don't know what to say. Just open with, so, what's your favorite Godzilla movie? And that's all you need to do. And
what do you think
talks.
of the new movie? There's always a new movie.
Always a new movie. And, that was a funny thing, too, is being the new movie, and how many people have watched the new movies, now they want to go back and see the old stuff. How many people I did run into that this was their first time coming to G-Fest. They've always read about it, money's always an issue with a lot of people, but they wanted to come down and they enjoyed themselves. Like there was another one. It wasn't a Kickstarter program. It was a GoFundMe.
Right. It's one of those similar ones. Yeah.
I was telling you how there was a Godzilla fan all the way from
Scotland, was it?
Scotland.
Yeah.
Somebody found it, posted it on Facebook. Me and several other people, we all did the GoFundMe, gave him some money, and he came down, and he came to the United States just for G-Fest, and he was blown away. He was in heaven. He loved it. Between the dealer's room, he did a music video. He did a costume.
But that's the thing, because if you're into Godzilla, this is it. This is as big as it gets. Unless there's something going on in Japan that you don't know about, this is as big as it gets.
Yeah, if we understand there are no conventions in Japan. They'll have exhibits, museums, things we've heard, but
they don't do this
put
sort of thing.
Fan conventions really together. Nothing huge, not like we do.
Not like we yeah.
So, and again, because it's all run by the fans and for the fans, by the fans, and it's a great experience.
Well, it sounds like you had a good time, and it sounds like we're going to be getting more reports from you from future conventions. And again, every time you go to Japan, that's a whole other world. It's a whole other country.
A whole other country.
No kidding.
That's a whole other podcast.
I know.
Well, unfortunately, you'll have to wait over a year. Well, maybe no, probably not. This time next year, you're going to have to wait a little
It's
longer.
a little over a year.
It'll be somewhere, we said in, do you think July? Late July, August.
Or something like that. Yeah,
So
more
by
or less.
September next year, you'll probably have a report. As long as, God willing, I can get off from work and nothing else changes and nothing gets canceled, we will be going there.
Cool. Well, I want to thank Michael, first of all, for visiting us and giving us his con stories, because, Mike, just like us, likes to go to cons. His one is specifically Godzilla-centric. Like I said before, we're going to post some of these videos and we're going to post some of these pictures so you guys can take a look at it, and the infamous trophy that Mike got to share this frightening story at the airport. And on behalf of everybody here, we'd like to thank you guys for listening, and we will see you here next time at GeekFest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. We do hope so. Oh, no.
It's my brick of hash.
It's my brick.
Cavity search ensued.